As far as location goes, Iceland is located in both the northern and western hemispheres. It is surrounded by the North Atlantic Ocean and its eastern neighbors with Greenland. Also, you can find parts of the country are within the Arctic Circle. It is very easy to get Iceland and Greenland confused. Just know that Greenland is an uninhabitable Arctic climate, where Iceland is much more mild. Also, the temperature in Greenland doesn't exceed 50 degrees, while Iceland doesn't exceed 80. Or, to simplify it, Iceland is green and Greenland is icy. Iceland's weather is moderate in the summer, with sun and rain and an average temperature between 50 and 55 degrees. In the winter, the weather is much rougher with chances of snow, sleet, and hail. The average temperature drops to 14 to 32 degrees. Iceland's landscape has many different features. There are glaciers, mountains, hills, volcanoes, and even beaches of beautiful black sand. The black sand comes from the volcanic ash. Also, the ground there has a unique moonlight feel with large boulders covered in moss filling up the plains. Fun fact, there are hardly any trees in Iceland. The only native tree is the dwarf birch, which has only ever reached about 8 feet tall. There is even a joke among the Icelanders: if you ever find yourself lost in an Icelandic forest, just stand up. The folk homes were great for isolation. They were made of stone, wood, and grass and painted black to absorb sunlight. Also, the design and structure of these homes reflected the Scandinavian and Nordic influence. Modern homes are much more colorful and ornate. Because of the lack of wood, they use steel paneling to build the houses. With the invention of heating, the homes can be less insulated and still keep warm. Icelandic folk clothing was very insulated as well. Women would wear dresses, woolen jackets, and hats with tassels, while men would wear woolen trousers, double-button jackets, and shoes of fish or sheepskin. Modern clothing again needs insulation and warmth. Some modern clothes worn by men and women include rainproof jackets, woolen sweaters and scarves, gloves, hats, and boots. The food in Iceland is very interesting. For a typical meal, you might have lamb, potatoes, fish, or other seafood. But there are also many dishes unique to the country. This includes mink whale, skyr, which is similar to yogurt, pilsner, which is similar to a hot dog, sheep's head, and puffin. The music in Iceland, surprisingly, isn't much different from American music. It is easy to find jazz music, classical music, and opera in local auditoriums, and contemporary music on the radio. Some of their main contemporary musicians are Björk, Sigur Rós, of Monsters and Men, Mum, and Gus Gus. In fact, Of Monsters and Men is a semi-popular band in the United States. As far as fun traditions and holidays go, Iceland is a great place to be. They celebrate 12 days of Christmas, the 12th being January 6th. On this day, there are bonfires, fireworks, and lots of celebration. They also celebrate Bun Day, the day before Lent. Restaurants serve lots of cream puffs to prepare the locals for sacrifice. Thorblot is another holiday. It recognizes the ancient Norse month Thori by having a feast. The feast might include smoked lamb, putrefied shark, and flatbread. Other countries like the UK and US have definitely impacted Iceland. There are so many trends, especially over the past century, that Iceland has found interest in. For example, both the Beatles and acid rock became popular. However, Iceland is very true to its heritage. It is very strong about protecting culture and preserving roots from when they were first colonized. Irish monks were the first in Iceland around the 8th and 9th centuries. They were driven out by Norwegian Vikings who accidentally landed there after searching for the Faroe Islands. The Vikings set up a camp there and decided to build a settlement. Further along, the Vikings realized women were needed to continue the colony. They went back eastward to capture Irish women and bring them back. They also took Irish men, who made great slaves. Throughout the travels of the Vikings, many people from Denmark, Scotland, and Sweden also ended up there. Today, Iceland isn't a very diverse country. All of the people there with Nordic or Scandinavian roots simply identify themselves as Icelandic. However, there is still a stigma against red-haired individuals following slavery from many years ago. There also isn't much in the way of ethnic enclaves. The more settled and indigenous people tend to live along the northeast edge, near to the center, while more migratory people live further southwest, nearest to the capital. In the capital, it is much more tourist and immigrant filled. There are more harbors and airports, and people in the city are more likely to speak English. Iceland's population is 91% Christian, and 75% of those belong to the Lutheran Church of Iceland. There is also a little percentage of Buddhist, Islamic, and Muslim people. Iceland's Lutheran Church, or Hallgrímskirkja, is 244 feet tall and is by far the largest church in Iceland. It was made this tall so anyone in the capital, Reykjavik, could see it. It was built by Guðjón Sigurðsson in 1986. He also incorporated the Icelandic landscape into the church by allowing the exterior to resemble lava flowing and cooling on basalt rock. The language of Iceland is known as Icelandic. Icelandic comes from the Indo-European language family and belongs to the North Germanic subgroup. Icelandic is spoken by about 330,000 people. Of that 330,000, about 320,000 live in Iceland, about 8,000 live in Denmark, about 5,000 live in the US, and over 1,400 live in Canada. The oldest written Icelandic dates back to 1100 AD. It is derived from Old Norse and other parts of Scandinavian languages. Back then, most of the important documents were preserved orally. In fact, when Iceland had its first parliament, the leader would have to recite all laws by memory. If he forgot something, it was no longer considered a law. And this image is the first written document that they still have today. Icelandic doesn't have many dialects due to the lack of speakers. However, it is known that people from the city Akureyri may leave out M or L sounds when speaking. Also, people from Reykjavik tend to soften consonants. These are a few common Icelandic phrases such as greetings in everyday speech. On the next slide is a video to hear and learn more. Thank you.